Okay, so if this entry is any indication, the nuance seems to be as dead as Melee's after her fight with Vhagar. But after a few centuries, you get bored and become a glutton for punishment, so today we're going to be talking about even more abstract concepts such as cosmic and divine law. Oh, we might be in for some trouble, since mortals like to equate things to their level, and their morality seems to be rather flexible at times, and like to judge others by different standards, despite the fact that, no, you really shouldn't do that. All I can say is this: keep an open mind, and let's see what's actually here, alright? In the Dragon Prince universe, Aaravos, the being who has brought chaos, devastation, and destruction to the world of Xadia, is in truth a grieving father out for revenge. Though the question is, who wouldn't be? After losing a child to what seems to be a harsh, unnecessary punishment for something that they didn't even know was a crime. A child who was suddenly taken from home, scared, confused, brought to a strange realm that they've never seen before, and made to defend themselves against an accusation they barely understood. Today we're talking about Leola, her sentencing, and death. It leads us to the question, what was Leola's crime?
The child stands accused of breaking the cosmic order. She has given magic to humans.
No.
To be honest, they don't really frame it all that well. When it comes to justice in the upper realms of reality, it often seems arbitrary, needlessly cruel, even contradictory. And yet paradoxically, it's simple, less permanent than many would believe, and prone to shifting with circumstances like all sense of justice. We were told that Leola's crime was teaching humans primal magic. It is no stretch to say executing a child for that would be the purest form of evil. All while the council spoke of a long spiral into chaos, as if that phrase carried any weight, when to most it's nothing but an excuse, flimsy and unforgivable. What if I told you that the chaos they feared leads to the destruction of worlds, to the unraveling of the very threads that hold reality together? I know, a bit too hyperbolic, and maybe a bit too vague, but let's make it a little bit more concrete, shall we? Imagine a driver. He's drunk and runs a red light, narrowly avoids colliding with a gasoline truck. That truck, forced to swerve, tips over and crashes into a power line. That line falls, severs, and knocks out the electricity in the entire neighborhood. While the content of that truck is being poured out onto the ground, a live wire slaps against the street and touches the gasoline. Flames erupt, a massive explosion occurs. Homes catch fire, trees ignite, and the blaze spreads. Meanwhile, the drunk driver, oblivious, just keeps swerving, trying to regain control, only to end up crashing into a transformer. Now, the entire block goes dark. No power, no phones or emergency services, just fire and death. This is an instance known as the butterfly effect. One small action rippling outwards and magnifying the damage again and again. And this is a very simple example of that. What if that is what Leola had unknowingly set into motion, but not with her destruction as many would believe, saying that her death only caused it to happen? But no. After all, Leola was just a precocious child and could not have known any better. Her teaching magic to humans was a mercy, not just to her friend, but additional sources indicate that she also aided more humans that we've seen. Why was this an issue that required her destruction though? It's because by teaching humans magic, she took something away from them that's fundamental, their development. And I do not mean some casual societal or civilizational development, but of themselves. Every species on Xadia, from the mightiest of elves and dragons to the lowest of glowtoads, has magic within them, all except for humanity, which has inspired a belief that it was due to prejudice that made elves and dragons look down upon them. And while that may be true in some instances, they were following cosmic law beyond the mere preconceptions of mortals, no matter how long lived. You see, no matter the universe, the world, or designated framework that has ever existed, there's always a development period within every species, a threshold in which a sentient species in particular must overcome before reaching higher levels of power, so that they might wield it responsibly. A rule worn time and again, but never really listened to. Give people power too early and they will abuse it. Take another universe, Farscape for example. Wormhole technology is coveted by the Peacekeepers, the Scarrans, by everyone. Every faction wanting to use it to either conquer or as a deterrent. But giving it to them would have led only to devastation. More death and less listening. Magic, like wormholes, are no different. Leola could provide them the tools, as she did with the Primal Stones, or have left scrolls of the draconic language for them to learn, maybe even help them with the syntax, but humanity needs to figure it out for themselves, just like Callum did.
To know something truly and deeply, you must know it with your head, hand, and heart.
Leola's condemnation is a textbook example of a principle held across many cultures and universes. Ignorantia juris non excusat. Ignorance of the law excuses nothing. That is, one cannot evade punishment simply by claiming that they didn't know the rules, even if they genuinely didn't. We saw her being tried as an adult in that instance. But why kill her? That's the big question. Why not let her learn from her mistake? Give her the chance to make it right. That's the most devastating part of it all, because the risk of her repeating was too great. And oftentimes in the attempt to fix what is broken, you end up causing it to happen anyway, just as many times trying to prevent causes it to occur. Which goes back to the idea that because she died and Aaravos caused so much destruction and damage that it made the entire death pointless. But no, because here's the one aspect of this whole thing. Despite everything that Aaravos did, that dark magic that he introduced was allowed to do by being used by humanity, it was merely a fraction of devastation that could have been wrought. That brings us to the question, how does life work in the Dragon Prince? Is it something naturally occurring? Or did the Stardust Elves create it? Or is it like most universes where it's a random confluence of events that allows for life to evolve? If the answer is anything similar to scenario 2, then Leola's punishment was unjust in its entirety and there's no excuse. But if it's 1 or 3, then we got a problem here. When I destroy a universe, well, granted, it's usually by accident due to intense emotional stimulus, well, when not ordered by the Udkin, but I can put them back, rebuild them as they were. Not many can do that, and it's likely the cosmic judges couldn't either. During the accusations, you can hear the reluctance in their voice about what needs to be done, how they've seen this spiral into chaos before, but never explained what it is, because they didn't need to. In the lifetime of Star-Touched Elves, they've seen it all, likely seen worlds rise and fall, mistakes abound through the void, and Aaravos himself had even seen it as well, as they stated.
This was not defiance.
You have seen what we have all seen, Aaravos. This act, however motivated, is the beginning of the end. The start of the long, slow spiral to chaos.
For when confronting the cosmic judges on this, Aaravos went straight from denial to pleading innocent mercy.
If she helped humans, it was out of compassion, out of love.
Within the drop of a hat. It shows that he understands the gravity of the situation for his daughter. If life is precious, only emerging through a confluence of events, then that makes the situation all the more stark. Every world that is destroyed is a permanent loss. Not just a single child, as with Leola, but millions of them. Even in your own world today, do you know how many children there are? 2.3 billion. They make up 29% of your population. One person causing the destruction of all of them without even meaning to do so through their actions. Through a simple act of mercy that snowballed. Mortals cannot really fathom the weight in which millions die. They must always retreat to numbers in order to understand, but even that pale in comparison. Do not mistake me. Leola's death was a tragedy, as is every life lost. But what happens when those losses become incalculable? The Star-Touched Elves, the Council, they do not have the luxury of merely chalking it up as numbers. But then, what about the humans that she taught? It stands to reason their fate would be no less permanent. After all, we learned what happened after humanity was cast out to the western half of the continent. And yes, there's gonna be some that are gonna say, oh, the boundary drained all the magic away. No, it was just as magically rich and powerful as the eastern half. The issue is management. Those who embraced dark magic became warlords, stripping the human lands to the bone for power. If that's what came from desperation, imagine what would come from premature access to real power. Those with this unique talent would be raised by kings, forced into roles such as court mages, if not worse, not for joy or discovery, but to enforce the will of those who controlled them. Rulers pushing magical advancement and marriages into cementing a permanent upper class of magically powerful beings, who would use their powers in the pursuit of more. And for those who fought back, who learned magic in order to fight against them as the only method of winning, would cause constant rebellions. This would be wars never ending. And do not get me wrong, that is not due to the nature of humanity as so many would actually say. That's just the nature of power itself. And those are the lucky ones. The unlucky ones? Oh, imagine being hunted, burned like witches, as had been done across many other worlds in the same circumstance. Feared, their power branded unnatural, unholy. ability. The fact that it's the same powers that are accessed by dragons and elves would only reinforced the danger of it in the eyes of the masses. The long spiral into chaos would have continued, fueled by acts born of care, love, and innocence. I'm not saying they're wrong. I am saying that when an action is taken, you do not know what's going to happen.
When you fire that first shot, no matter how right you feel, you have no idea who's going to die.
And what's worse, Leola had only spread this knowledge to a single kingdom, not into the whole of humanity. It's like the United States having nuclear warheads after World War II and no other country ever developing them. You can only imagine what happened. After all, dreams of empire are not too far away in the eyes of a prosperous kingdom. The want for more always appears, and the impulse is almost always indulged.
That all changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
And many times throughout history, we've been shown the cruelest actions often come from the kindest of intentions. And they even stated that.
Sometimes the line between mercy and cruelty can be thin.
The monster that Aaravos became, the father blinded by vengeance and grief, is nothing compared to the horrors that could have come from Leola's actions. Again, do not mistake me, I do not blame her. She was innocent. But how much worse would her suffering have been if these star-touched elves had been truly capricious? If they had been as capricious as the Greek gods, who would force her to watch the pain, destruction, and death that her teachings would have wrought, knowing that it was her fault. That would have crushed the spirit of anyone, especially one so pure and innocent. In that instance, her punishment wasn't cruelty. If anything, it was tragically merciful. Now we move on to the second half of this tragedy. The Archmage, the fallen star, the betrayer. No matter what the council did, Aaravos' crimes are horrific, unjustifiable. Well, granted, except for this one.
So dies the Sun King.
Bastard had it coming. Yet Aaravos still lives and will return. Despite everything, the suffering he caused, his return is not only allowed, it's expected.
And what will your sacrifices buy? A mere moment of peace? Before I return to a world without you? A world without arch-dragons? Your deaths mean nothing.
How is that not a slap in the face of decency and cosmic justice? Why should he be allowed to return after introducing dark magic to the world? Why was he sealed in a pearl instead of being extinguished like his daughter? What justification allows him to remain a threat? There are two potential explanations for this, and both of them are rather interesting. The first one is that no one knew. Remember that Leola was only sentenced and condemned after the Dragon Prince, Aaravos, had witnessed her teaching humans magic directly.
Leola has shown them nothing.
There is proof. A witness.
What?
The Dragon Prince himself. Aaravos.
Not giving them tools like the Primal Stones, but taught them the draconic language and how to access the magic, regardless of the dragon's personal preferences, which, glad he is a burdened corpse personally. This is how the council found out. Aaravos himself was far more subtle. He gifted Zirid, the first dark mage, the relic staff to act as a conduit for magical energy and the life forces that would be drained in the use of dark magic. Something that humanity would readily accept to solve all their problems, rather than taking the hard path as Callum did. And as far as we know, Aaravos never taught Zirid. No evidence could be given, thus no justice served. The Dark Mage himself would never even state Aaravos' name to Sol Regum, referring to him as one of the Great Ones.
Who gave you the staff? Who?
One of the Great Ones.
Which likely means Aaravos never gave him his name to begin with. This is the most plausible answer, but let's take it one step further with this second explanation. What if the council couldn't destroy him? We know that star-touched elves are immortal, that much is stated.
The Great Ones are immortal,
But there's a bit of a subtle difference that many missed. It's in the trials and his defeat. Confident in the knowledge that after his vessel is destroyed, he will return in 7 years. Given everything that Aaravos had done, surely he could not expect to escape judgment from the council. But he did. It's because they may have needed his permission to end him. Why? During the trial, Aaravos was actually willing to give up his life in exchange for Leola.
Then let me pay it. Take my life. Without her, mine is not worth living.
But the council, to be entirely honest, just seemed that they had their hand forced. They could not let her live. Whatever cosmic justice is, it is the reason why she had to die. But they offered him a singular cruel mercy to die with his daughter.
This compromise may be a kindness. Perhaps we can show mercy.
Very well. Aaravos, the council decrees, if you so choose, you may die alongside your daughter.
To spare him an eternity without her. But Aaravos refused, not out of spite, but because accepting death would have helped them, would have preserved their order. The very thing he was determined to tear down. In that instant, the judgment was made. If he could have been destroyed like Leola, why would he be certain of his return? I mean, come on, that's not villain's bravado. Everything he's done since escaping has been to lure the remaining archdragons into one place, to destroy them all in one fell swoop. That speaks to a difference in power and permanence. While there's no concrete proof, a pattern does emerge, especially when you compare Leola to Aaravos. Leola was a child, young, had not fully grown to her full potential, like a blue star. Brilliant, volatile, yet incredibly fragile. One disruption and the entire thing will collapse. Aaravos was a mature star, stable, hardened, and anchored. His connection to the stars, those that allowed him to manifest, allowed him to be effectively indestructible. To end them permanently, those stars would likely have to die themselves. Or the theory of a star-touched archdragon being a thing, but that's a bit redundant when you think of it. And that, when any decree, is what ensures his immortality. It's why his return is possible, when, in all rights, it really shouldn't be. But this leads us to a thought process, that the introduction to dark magic, the gifting of it to all those who wish to learn it, might have not been as damaging as what Leola did. See, in the current age of Dragon Prince, dark mages are actually very rare, with one remaining by the time of the 7th year of this nonsense. They had plundered magical resources of the western half of the continent, effectively making dark mages and their magic an extremely finite expression of power. When Anak-Arau demanded Zirid to give up dark magic while laden with prejudice and the belief that humanity is inferior, it ensured that humans kept using it. And like a candle lit at both ends, the time of using it would be short. But that's the thing. 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years or more, it hardly matters because magical life would one day return to the western half of the continent. But without that magical life, dark magic will fade away. It will become extinct. Once gone, humans would have to learn magic the hard way, like Callum. But you see, I believe there's a reason why humanity didn't gain magic innately, and it wasn't due to cosmic law. It was something due to their development and their potential. But we shall return to that another time. Well, I say that, but that only depends if I end up getting a massive headache from this one, just like the last one. I mean, I already blew up 3 universes because of it, and I gotta put those back together. But I'll see you all next time, and I hope you have a good day.